Have you ever wondered why, even with all our modern progress, people still struggle with stress, comparison, and worry? The same things that troubled people 2,000 years ago. What if the answers we're looking for have already been written, waiting for us in ancient wisdom that's been tested by time itself? Today, we're going to explore how the thoughts of ancient philosophers can transform your daily life in ways that feel almost magical. Picture this. You wake up tomorrow morning, and instead of immediately reaching for your phone to check notifications, you pause. You take a moment to remember that you have a choice in how you respond to whatever the day brings. This isn't some new age concept. It's a practice that Roman emperors used to find peace in the chaos of ruling an empire. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, wrote in his personal journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Think about that for a moment. The most powerful person in the ancient world found his greatest strength not in his armies or his wealth, but in understanding what he could and couldn't control. And here we are, 2,000 years later, still learning the same lesson. The truth is, our minds haven't evolved much since ancient times. We still worry about the future, regret the past, and get caught up in comparing ourselves to others. The difference is that now we have smartphones that make these ancient struggles feel more intense than ever. Did you know the average person checks their phone 96 times per day? That's once every 10 minutes during waking hours. We're constantly feeding our minds information, but rarely giving them time to process and find peace. The ancient Stoics understood something we've forgotten: the importance of mental quiet. Not the kind of forced silence where you're fighting your thoughts, but a gentle awareness that allows you to observe your mind without being controlled by it. Seneca, a Roman philosopher who lived through some of the most turbulent times in history, wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." He knew that peace comes not from avoiding life's challenges, but from changing how we meet them. Let's talk about something that might sound familiar. You're scrolling through social media, and suddenly you see someone living what looks like a perfect life. Maybe they're on a beautiful vacation, or they just got promoted, or they seem to have the relationship you wish you had. That familiar sting of comparison hits, and suddenly your own life feels smaller, less meaningful. This exact same feeling plagued people in ancient Rome, just without the Instagram filter. Epictetus, who started life as a slave and became one of the most respected teachers of his time, had a simple but powerful way of dealing with this. He taught that we suffer not from events themselves, but from our judgments about those events. When you see that perfect vacation photo, you're not actually seeing someone's life. You're seeing a single moment, carefully chosen and presented. The ancient wisdom reminds us that everyone faces struggles. Everyone has moments of doubt, and everyone is figuring things out as they go. But here's where it gets interesting. The Stoics didn't just talk about accepting difficult emotions. They had practical daily habits that actually worked. Marcus Aurelius started each day by reminding himself that he would encounter difficult people, unexpected challenges, and his own mistakes. Not to be pessimistic, but to be prepared. He wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own." This might sound harsh at first, but think about how freeing this actually is. When someone cuts you off in traffic or is rude to you at the store, instead of taking it personally, you can remember that their behavior says nothing about you and everything about their own inner state. You don't have to carry their stress or anger with you. The Stoics also practiced something called the view from above. When Marcus Aurelius felt overwhelmed by the politics and pressures of ruling Rome, he would imagine himself from a cosmic perspective. seeing his problems as tiny parts of a much larger, beautiful whole. Modern science has actually proven that this kind of perspective-taking reduces stress and increases feelings of connection and purpose. When astronauts see Earth from space, they often describe a profound shift in how they understand their place in the universe. The ancient philosophers found this same peace without ever leaving the ground. Speaking of modern science, researchers have found that people who spend just 2 hours per week in nature show significantly better mental and physical health. The Stoics knew this intuitively. They understood that we're part of the natural world, not separate from it. Seneca wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end," reflecting the natural cycles that surround us. When you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is step outside and remember that you're part of something much larger and more enduring than your current worries. There's something almost magical about how ancient wisdom speaks to our modern struggles. Take the concept of memento mori, remembering that life is temporary. This isn't meant to be morbid or depressing. Instead, it's incredibly liberating. When you truly understand that your time here is limited, you stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. You stop holding grudges that only hurt you. You start appreciating the simple moments that make life beautiful. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." How perfectly this captures our modern struggle with social media and external validation. We know our own thoughts, dreams, and struggles intimately, yet we constantly measure our worth against the carefully curated highlights of other people's lives. If you're enjoying this journey through timeless wisdom, consider subscribing. It helps us keep sharing these ideas with more people who need them. There's something beautiful about connecting with others who are also seeking peace and understanding in our chaotic world. The Stoics had a practice called negative visualization, which sounds pessimistic, but is actually profoundly positive. They would occasionally imagine losing the things they valued most, not to torture themselves, but to cultivate gratitude for what they had. When you imagine your morning coffee being your last, you taste it more fully. When you imagine this being your last conversation with a friend, you listen more carefully. This practice transforms ordinary moments into gifts. But perhaps the most powerful Stoic practice is the discipline of desire, learning to want what you have, rather than constantly chasing what you don't have. In our consumer culture, we're constantly told that happiness is just one purchase, one achievement, one relationship away. The ancient philosophers knew better. They understood that contentment comes from appreciating what's already in your life. Seneca, who was incredibly wealthy, wrote extensively about the relationship between money and happiness. He discovered what modern psychology has confirmed. Beyond meeting basic needs, additional wealth has diminishing returns on happiness. The richest man in Rome found his greatest joy in simple pleasures, good conversations, beautiful sunsets, moments of quiet reflection. This doesn't mean we should avoid ambition or stop working toward goals. The Stoics were highly accomplished people. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire. Seneca was a successful businessman and advisor. Epictetus built a renowned school. But they understood the difference between working towards something and being attached to the outcome. They gave their best effort and then accepted whatever resulted with grace. Do you agree that silence has become one of the rarest luxuries today? Share your thoughts in the comments. In our world of constant notifications, background music, and endless chatter, finding moments of genuine quiet feels almost revolutionary. The Stoics valued silence not as emptiness, but as fullness. Space for wisdom to emerge, for perspective to develop, for peace to settle in. There's a beautiful paradox in Stoic thinking. By accepting what we cannot control, we actually gain more control over our lives. When you stop fighting against traffic jams, difficult people, or unexpected changes, you free up enormous amounts of mental energy. That energy can then be directed toward the things you actually can influence: your responses, your choices, your growth. Epictetus taught his students to ask themselves a simple question when facing any challenge. Is this within my control or not? If it's not within your control, practice acceptance. If it is within your control, take thoughtful action. This simple framework can transform how you approach everything from work stress to relationship conflicts to global events that feel overwhelming. The ancient philosophers also understood something we're just rediscovering: the importance of community and service to others. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What brings no benefit to the hive can bring none to the bee." Individual happiness and collective well-being are interconnected. When you help others find peace and wisdom, you deepen your own understanding. When you contribute to something larger than yourself, you find meaning that no amount of personal achievement can provide. Modern research on happiness consistently shows that people who engage in acts of service and maintain strong social connections report higher levels of life satisfaction. The Stoics knew this 2 millennia ago. They practiced philosophy not as an abstract intellectual exercise, but as a way of living that benefited both themselves and their communities. And if this kind of wisdom helps you, leaving a like really supports the channel and means a lot. It's amazing how these ancient ideas continue to resonate and help people find peace in our modern world. One of the most practical Stoic teachings is the idea of preferred indifference. This means recognizing that while some things are naturally preferable, health over sickness, wealth over poverty, success over failure, none of these external circumstances determine your fundamental well-being, your character, your responses, your inner peace. These are what truly matter. Everything else is just the stage on which you practice virtue. This perspective is incredibly freeing. It means you can work toward goals without being devastated if you don't achieve them. You can enjoy good fortune without being terrified of losing it. You can face setbacks without losing your sense of self-worth. Your happiness becomes less dependent on external circumstances and more rooted in your own wisdom and character. The Stoics also practiced what they called the discipline of action, engaging fully with life while maintaining inner detachment from outcomes. This isn't about being passive or uncaring. It's about bringing your best effort to everything you do while holding the results lightly. When you're no longer attached to specific outcomes, you can take more risks, be more creative, and paradoxically, often achieve better results because you're not paralyzed by fear of failure. Think about the last time you were really worried about something. How much of that worry actually helped you? Probably very little. The Stoics distinguish between productive concern, which leads to helpful action, and unproductive worry, which just creates suffering without solving anything. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Today I escaped anxiety," or no, I discarded it because it was within me, in my own perceptions, not outside. This brings us to one of the most profound Stoic insights: the understanding that our perceptions create our reality. Two people can experience the exact same event and have completely different emotional responses based on how they interpret what happened. The person who sees a job loss as a catastrophe will suffer differently than the person who sees it as an opportunity for growth and change. Neither perception is objectively right or wrong, but one creates more suffering than the other. The ancient philosophers spent a lot of time thinking about death, not because they were morbid, but because understanding mortality helps us live more fully. When you truly grasp that your time is limited, you stop postponing joy. You stop waiting for perfect conditions to be happy. You start appreciating the ordinary miracles that surround you every day. The taste of water when you're thirsty, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the sound of laughter from people you love. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." How much time do we spend worrying about things that never happen? How much energy do we waste on resentment, comparison, and regret? The Stoics understood that every moment spent in unnecessary suffering is a moment stolen from potential joy and growth. But perhaps the most beautiful aspect of Stoic philosophy is its fundamental optimism about human nature. Despite living through wars, political upheaval, and personal tragedies, these ancient thinkers maintained faith in our capacity for wisdom, growth, and virtue. They believed that every person has the potential to find peace and meaning regardless of their circumstances. Epictetus, who knew slavery and disability, taught that no one can hurt you without your permission. This isn't victim blaming, it's empowerment. It's the recognition that while you can't control what happens to you, you always have some choice in how you respond. Even in the most difficult circumstances, you retain the freedom to choose your attitude, your values, and your character. This ancient wisdom feels especially relevant today when we're bombarded with information about problems we can't solve and events we can't control. The Stoics would remind us to focus on our own sphere of influence, our responses, our choices, our growth. They would encourage us to be informed citizens and compassionate human beings, but not to carry the weight of the entire world on our shoulders. As we near the end of our exploration, it's worth reflecting on why these ancient ideas continue to resonate so powerfully. Perhaps it's because human nature hasn't fundamentally changed. We still struggle with the same fears, desires, and challenges that people faced thousands of years ago. We still seek meaning, connection, and peace. We still have to figure out how to live well in an uncertain world. The Stoics offer us something precious, a way of thinking that's both practical and profound, both realistic and hopeful. They don't promise that life will be easy or that following their teachings will eliminate all suffering. Instead, they offer tools for finding strength in difficulty, peace in chaos, and meaning in uncertainty. Marcus Aurelius, writing in his tent during military campaigns, reminded himself, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." This simple statement contains enormous power. It acknowledges that change is the only constant, but it also affirms our ability to shape our experience through our thinking. In our modern world of constant connectivity and endless distractions, the Stoic emphasis on inner work feels almost revolutionary. The idea that you can find peace not by changing your circumstances, but by changing your relationship to your circumstances, offers hope to anyone who feels stuck or overwhelmed. The ancient philosophers understood that wisdom isn't about having all the answers. It's about asking better questions. Instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" they asked, "How can I grow from this experience?" Instead of, "What if everything goes wrong?" they asked, "What can I control right now?" Instead of, "Why don't I have what others have?" they asked, "How can I appreciate what I already possess?" These shifts in questioning create shifts in experience. They move us from victimhood to empowerment, from scarcity to abundance, from anxiety to acceptance. They don't eliminate life's challenges, but they transform how we meet those challenges. As we conclude this journey through ancient wisdom, consider this. The very fact that these ideas have survived for over 2,000 years suggests something profound about their truth and usefulness. Empires have risen and fallen. Technologies have transformed human life beyond recognition. But the fundamental questions of how to live well, how to find peace, and how to create meaning remain the same. The Stoics offer us a gift that's both ancient and eternally fresh. The understanding that happiness isn't something that happens to us, but something we cultivate within ourselves. Peace isn't the absence of problems, but the presence of wisdom in facing those problems. Strength isn't about never falling down, but about how gracefully we get back up. Perhaps the most beautiful thing about ancient wisdom is that it's always available to us. You don't need special equipment, expensive courses, or perfect conditions. You just need the willingness to pause, reflect, and choose your responses consciously. You need the courage to look within and the patience to practice these ideas until they become part of who you are. So as you go forward from here, remember Marcus Aurelius's gentle reminder: confine yourself to the present. The past is gone, the future is uncertain, but this moment, right now, is where your power lies. This moment is where you can choose peace over anxiety, gratitude over complaint, wisdom over reactivity. This moment is where ancient wisdom becomes living truth. What will you choose to carry forward from these timeless teachings into your own beautifully imperfect, wonderfully uncertain, absolutely precious life?